when they, his granddaddy. Sounds like, yeah, that didn't work. You should, because I was like, that was really nice.
See, like, if you're actually
Now I'm just like,
go to this place and talk to actually, this sounds like they have t-shirts.
Okay, so it's just your jacket. I saw your little thing. I was like, she didn't have her thumb through. I'm like, did she hurt herself?
No,
But it's just one of those.
right?
I know.
I'm Carrie.
I'm Leslie. Nice to meet you.
really good.
It's finally starting to warm up a little bit.
I was like,
Yeah. I know it does get really cold. But then it also gets really hot here too. Right now I feel like we're Yes. Yeah.
I'm cold usually anyway.
Are you?
Yeah.
I was until I hit a certain age a couple of years ago, and now I'm just hot.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say like hot, maybe, but like warm, where
Yeah.
like, you know how it feels to be cold.
Yeah.
So when I'm just like, you know, I'll be standing, I'm a teacher too, standing in my classroom, like 2 years ago, I had on sleeveless and everybody's in sweatshirts and I'm comfortable. And I was like, okay, this is the way life is going to be.
New norm.
Yeah, yeah. So knock on wood, that it makes like not hot flashes,
Yeah.
but just
Although
my
I will
overall
say
body
this,
temperature.
regularly
has to be
warm,
warmer
yeah.
than it used to be, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one night.
There's an ups and downs though, I
Shutting
guess.
outside and
True,
Yeah.
that's true. I know what to expect.
Right.
Just one
I know what to wear.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just a little. I'm like, hey, look at he's strong either. And he actually was fine. But like he had to do like 1 or 2 minutes, but and they were 8 minutes.
So do you have Lyme or did something, you don't have Lyme? Or just in the holistic healing?
Yeah, really. I mean, Lyme is real tricky, and I mean, so I'm an LPN, so you can get it treated.
Yeah.
It's a very long treatment, and it's kind of toxic to your system. And
That was how I discovered the top.
I don't know if it exactly works because people have symptoms after.
Right,
You know.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just even as you were saying that, like, I can feel an emotion.
Well, yeah.
Because for me, it was, 15 years ago, and like, they were diagnosed
Not at all.
at that time.
No. No. Right, and it's ridiculous that like it's an industry, but you have to advocate. You have to pretty much already know what you need before you go to the doctor, and
Yes.
you have to tell them what you think the remedy would be or what you would like to try because
Right, yeah,
yeah, it's sad.
yeah.
And even if you do all have like all of this knowledge and information, and this is what I think is going on, and you run these tests, and I want to start this. Who are you telling me my job? I went to school for this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you know the story,
Like,
you know the story.
Right. So we're gonna run some blood tests, not what you want, not as comprehensive, and then it's gonna come back inconclusive, and then you're gonna be like, you know what's going on?
Oh my gosh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes, I
And
feel
it's
that,
really
yeah.
like,
Yeah, and they're arrogant about it, and like it's really hard to find
Yeah.
so like,
Yeah, I know once you at least be
Do you know what I mean?
reminded, to know that.
I know my body, right? It's my body. I live with it all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
I
your
don't
kids, I
believe
also
you,
have
but-
experiences with my kids too, like, just, I think there's something wrong, oh, no, she's fine, I'm like, no, I'm telling you, no, and then, she's in the emergency room.
Yeah.
I told you.
Right.
Yeah, just like arguing, to advocate for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Lyme is a good lesson in, be a self-advocate.
Well, and it's,
As soon as this other girl comes back, she's going to the restroom, then we'll get started, okay?
yeah, and it's hard because, you walk in and they pretty much gaslight you.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've done my research. I know my body. I live in it all the
I know.
time. And it's sad.
Yeah. Where do you practice?
So I actually just quit my job. I worked in PTSD inpatient at the VA.
Okay.
And hostile work situation wasn't getting better. I'm like, you know what, my energy is no longer needed here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I have my daughter that's 20 is starting nursing school actually this semester, and it's funny you can't do it very much, right? But I'm like, oh my gosh, she's coming out of the medical system. Like, don't you? She knows how I'm very holistic, right?
You know what I'm saying in nursing, like it's hard and it's tough, and they teach you how to even more so disregard yourself and not listening to your own body to push through to take care of other people, because my first nursing job 25 years ago, I got a UTI because I didn't have time to go to the bathroom.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. I know. I gotta have a argument with her for the fall because she works at a bar and she works overnight. So she was showing me her schedule for clinicals that she thinks she's gonna do. And she thinks she's gonna work overnight at the bar and then go to clinicals from 6 to noon. I said, you're not gonna do that for 2 days. I said, where are you going to sleep?
Right.
And she's like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll just sleep in blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, that's not gonna be till
You
the fall.
wait until those nursing instructors get a hold of you. I'm just saying.
I know.
Okay.
I know. Yeah. So,
One time, she'll be fine. She'll be
Yes.
fine. But man, I don't know.
yeah.
Just a thing to learn and
I can't with, even if I move
go
with my
through.
eyes closed. It's like, I can't believe it did that. Okay, that's
Okay, well, welcome. My name is Leslie, and I'm gonna keep my timer to try to keep me on track here, and my notes also to keep me on track so I don't digress too much. But anyway, so I'm Leslie. I had Lyme about 15 years ago, I would say, and it probably took me at least a good 7 years to feel like myself again. So it is quite a process, but I'm happy to report that I'm thriving nowadays. So before we get started, I know I already asked you, but does anybody in here have Lyme or know somebody who has Lyme, or is just really the holistic health and kind of healing?
My dog had Lyme.
Your dog have, oh, they love to treat dogs. They don't like to treat people. Yes,
Oh, just the holistic,
okay,
healthy living.
perfect.
Plus, honestly, living over here, like ticks around all the
Ticks
time.
off.
Like I feel like it's just knowledge you should have anyways. Yeah.
Same with I live out in the country and
Okay,
I'm really mindful of wearing my socks over my pants and
yeah,
just,
yeah,
the deer are everywhere there.
for sure, for sure.
Is that the only way you can get it?
Well, that could be another discussion. That's
Okay.
a little rabbit hole, right? that you could go down. I do feel like it can be passed down, and I've seen, from mother to child. Also, and I also think, which I'm kind of glad you said that because I didn't include this in here, but that it's something that can live in your body for a long time without symptoms until your body can't handle it anymore. And that's really kind of what my story is, right? So welcome, I'm Leslie.
Thank you. I'm Jackie. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So anyway, I'm Leslie. I'm a wife to 3 college-age girls. I have a 32-year-old stepson, a 9-year-old granddaughter, and a baby number 2 on the way coming up in June, so we're really excited about that. I'm a trauma-informed life coach, a holistic supplement consultant. I'm a psychic medium. I do Reiki. And also I'm a high school Spanish teacher, so that is my full-time job. So I wear a lot of hats, and for a long time I wore all of those hats at once. I mentioned it was 15 years ago when I had Lyme disease, so my youngest child is 19, which puts her at 4. So my kids were little when that happened. So before we get started, I just want to see who is in the room here. So anybody in here describe themselves as type A personality? Anybody roll out of bed and dive headfirst into the day and you just keep on going until either you run out of daylight or you just can't go anymore?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody drink coffee in the afternoon just to make it through?
3 o'clock?
I did coffee till 11 p.m.
Okay. Anybody ever been called or call themselves the Energizer Bunny?
Probably.
Yeah. And anybody ever drop into bed exhausted?
Yeah.
Multiple nights in a row, right? Okay, so that was me for a really, really long time, kind of to go with like, how do you get the Lyme, and the idea that it stays in your body until your body can't handle it is really what I think my story is, to be honest with you. So, you know, for my entire life, I have been a natural morning person. I have not used an alarm in probably 30 or 40 years. I just wake up at 5 a.m. I would put my running clothes on or my workout clothes. I'd run or lift weights before the sun came up. And then again, my kids were little, so I would shower, I would get my lunch ready, I'd get something out for dinner, I'd get my kids' lunches ready, I'd get the kids up, they'd go off to school or to the sitters, and then I would, you know, jump into the car and go to my full-time paying job. And so it really felt like I was doing a full-time job before I went to my full-time job. And at that time I was teaching middle schoolers, so I don't know if you remember middle school age kids or not, or yourself, but I had probably between 125 and 150 kids that I saw every single day in my classroom. And then 8 times a day, you know, they're changing classes, which means that there's 800 kids in the hallway, lockers slamming, talking, yelling, running. Do we have any empaths? Yeah, so you know, like just at the end of the day, just from listening to that, I was exhausted by the time I got home. And that's when coffee entered my life at about like 30, 31. I did not drink coffee in the morning, but I did start drinking coffee every afternoon just in order to make it through, you know, with my kids. So I would get home, you know, get the kids situated, whatever they needed to be doing. I would be making dinner, you know, baths, bedtime routine, and then come 9 o'clock, I was dropping in bed exhausted after I put the kids in bed. And I did that for years, and I thought I was Wonder Woman. It turns out I'm not Wonder Woman. And then because I couldn't do it anymore, right? And so looking back, I could see that there were clues. At the time, I was like, what? I swear a lot, sorry. What the hell, right? Like, where did this come from? But it was just that I really had ignored those clues for a long time because I was that go-go kind of person, and I like to be that way too. It's hard for me to sit still. But I really feel like I probably got Lyme disease when I was pregnant with my youngest daughter. So when I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, I was really, really sick for a short amount of time, and it was not morning sickness. And you know, then after that, I would have what you might call healthy years if you consider, you know, chronic sinus infections, ear infections. I got my first ear infection when I was 28 years old. Digestive issues, and I was the type of person, I was the perfect attendance kid in high school. I was never sick in school, and maybe that had to do with the raw milk that I drank because we owned a farm. I don't know, but that's another story. And so anyway, you know, again, if you consider those healthy years, I was pretty healthy, right? Healthy means that, you know, I'd have a sinus infection and like felt like my head was going to explode, and I was still going to work every single day and teaching the kids. But then when my youngest was 4, that's really when things escalated for me. And it just felt like, well, first the fatigue came, right? And so you just from listening to that, you're probably sounding like it could be a little tiring, right? And it just went to the next level. It was like every single food that I ate was upsetting me, like I just couldn't digest it anymore. I remember being at work at my desk and I ate a banana and it felt like my throat was closing up. I didn't eat a banana for probably 7 years. I did not have any allergies. I was not allergic to bananas. I started getting night sweats. I had numbness in my face, hands, and my feet. And then the joint pain. So I felt like I was 100 years old, even though I was only 32. So in the morning, this is when I started yoga and stretching. And when I say yoga, like slow, because I didn't have any energy, but I literally like could barely move my body every day until I did some kind of yoga or like stretching. So I did what all of us are taught to do, right? I went off to the doctor, and then another doctor, and another doctor, and another doctor, because I just was dismissed over and over and over again. And you know, I remember one doctor like pointing to the screen of my blood work. He's like, see that right there? That is the gold standard for blood work. And I was like, well, really? Well, what about all the symptoms? Well, like, why am I feeling this way? So he didn't have, not just he, none of the doctors that I saw had a single suggestion for me. They had no recommendations, no idea. They're just like, well, it's not on your blood work, so I guess you're fine. Just go on home. So I did have one doctor who asked me if I knew who Yogi Bhajan was. And I was like, no, I have no idea. And so I looked him up, and basically he was telling me that I should breathe. That was the only recommendation that I got, which in retrospect at the time I was like, what? But I did it, right? And it is something that I really needed to, and that breathing helped me slow down. But I mean, you know, here I am teaching middle school every day, like I couldn't feel my face. Do you know what that's like? Like standing in front of a room full of people and you can't feel your face. And I remember my friend saying we had to share classrooms because the school was small. My handwriting was atrocious. And so really like it gets into your nervous system, right? So anyway, sorry, I wanna make sure I include everything. But I mean, part of the problem, right, is that the doctors were just looking at the numbers, and you know, that's what they're trained to do. They're trained to look at the numbers. They did not look at me as a person. They never asked me a single question about myself or about my life or anything. I was like, so just like, sorry. So anyway, I do feel like I was really fortunate because that was over a period, I'd say of at least like 6 months. And I don't know if you know anybody with Lyme, but like sometimes they go from doctor to doctor for years and years, right? Looking for a solution. And it was actually one of the guidance counselors that I work with that said, you sound like you have a lot of the same symptoms as so-and-so, one of my students who had Lyme disease. So at this point, I was going to a gastroenterologist and I asked to be tested and it came back positive. And so I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere, right? And he sent me to an infectious disease specialist who was the best in Buffalo at that time, who tested me for 20 other things and then said, there's not enough evidence that you have Lyme disease. Just go home and we'll watch you. And I was like, watch me what? Like disappear into nothing? Like just be somebody who can't even get out of bed every day? Like it's hard enough to get out of bed. And I did test positive for 4 things, and I can only remember 2. One of them was Epstein-Barr virus. The other was parvovirus. And I guess that did not matter, along with the 2 other positive tests and the Lyme disease positive test. They just said, go home and we'll watch you. So I did what any person who's desperate for answers, I turned to Dr. Google, and which I was specifically told not to do by one of my doctors because he said, with your symptoms, you were not gonna find anything good. And anyway, I also had a friend who was dairy and gluten-free, and to this day, I don't even really know why she was dairy and gluten-free because 15 years ago, that wasn't like all the buzz, right? Like you see it everywhere now. And 15 years ago, we didn't have all this great food in the grocery store. But I decided to give up dairy, which is really weird because we owned a dairy farm growing up. But when I gave up dairy, I started feeling really, really good. It was like the best that I had felt in a long time. So then I gave up gluten. And then I felt even better. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and I'm not saying I was perfect, but compared to where I had been, I was feeling really good. So then, thanks to Dr. Google, I discovered nightshades. I don't know if you've heard of nightshades or not, but tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, and they are known to cause joint pain. So I had plenty of joint pain, so I gave up that. I gave up nightshades also. I can't remember if soy is a nightshade or not, but I gave up soy too. And then pretty much I took that anti-inflammatory diet to a whole new level. And I feel like pretty much all I was eating was lettuce, right? But I was feeling a little bit better. Coincidentally too, when I gave up gluten and dairy, I dropped 20 pounds almost instantly. So those are inflammatory foods, for your body. And if your body can handle them, fantastic. Mine apparently cannot, even really to this day. So anyway, I started reading a lot too. I discovered the Gerson therapy. Anybody heard of the Gerson therapy? Mm-hmm. So the Gerson therapy is a very strict nutritional healing protocol, and they're best known, I would say, for healing cancer, but they really heal everything. They have a clinic over the border in Mexico. I learned a whole ton about health and the government and the medical field. Because, a little side note, it's illegal to treat cancer in the United States by any other means than chemo and radiation, which is why a lot of the health clinics are just over the border in Mexico. So anyway, I went to the Gerson Institute, which is, like their school, which is in California, to learn about the Gerson therapy. And, talk about divine timing too. So I got there and the woman is like, okay, this year we're gonna have 2 testimonials due to popular demand. The bathroom's over here. Here we go. Okay, James. And James got up and proceeded to list every single symptom that I had and said I had Lyme disease, and he used Gerson therapy to heal it, and I started crying. And so then I knew like that was something that I needed to do. So the Gerson therapy is, it's 8 juices a day, I believe. It's been a little while. It's 4 carrot and green apple, and 4 romaine lettuce and green apple juices. So I went out and bought myself a $500 juicer and started juicing. And they also do coffee enemas, which coffee enemas, years ago, like I want to say 20s, I don't know if it's much past that, used to be in the Merck manual, like the medical books, but for detoxing. And so it's a massive detoxer. It took me a while to start that one because that's a little bit psychological. And thank God that it worked out the way that it did, because the first time that I did a coffee enema, and I don't know if I mentioned the brain fog that I had the fog lifted and I had clarity for the first time in years. And so because of that, I continued with it. So Gerson therapy is also, they have a combination of raw foods, salads with a lot of stuff, right? And then also kind of like slow cooked food, so things that it's very easy for your body to digest. No oils, no fats, no meat, no protein as we know it. And people are like, oh, how are you living? Well, I lived for 18 months and people heal this way too. I started going to holistic doctors, and if, you know, it sounds like you're all into the holistic world a little bit, you do really have to shop around for holistic doctors. And one of the holistic doctors that I went to, it corresponded to the same time I was going to the infectious disease specialist. I hadn't been there yet. And she was an MD who kind of got fed up with the medical system and started practicing holistically. And once I told her that I was going to the infectious disease specialist, she said, I don't want to be responsible for you being in a wheelchair down the road, and she wouldn't treat me. So you have to shop around, right? And see what is a good fit for you. So I did end up at Natural Health Choices. They are on Delaware. It's a husband and wife, and they're both naturopathic doctors, of which there's 5 schools in the country. It's like medical school, but they do naturopathic things. So in Oregon, which is where they went to school, like they can order blood tests and they can do a lot of the things that our doctors can do. In New York State, we have a lot of regulations. They cannot order blood tests in New York State. So anyway, she had me bring all my blood tests. Every supplement that I read online that I thought I needed, I also started taking. So I came in with a basket. She said, bring in your supplements and I'll go through them and let you know like what I think is good and what's not. And then she said, well, I think you need to come back and you need to see my husband. And so her husband is Dr. Lyme, and he practices Chinese medicine, and they diagnose through your symptoms. They diagnose through your pulse and through your tongue. And he also does acupuncture as well. So he said, you need some goo, which I was like, I don't know what that is, but okay. When I looked it up, it's a conglomeration of herbs, but it said for Lyme, so I was like, okay. So to this day, I really don't even know what was in it. But I did take it for 18 years, and it helped. That was my first introduction really to energy medicine. So I had acupuncture, and the first time that I had acupuncture, I could literally feel the energy running through my body. So after the first time, it wasn't powerful like that, but it was amazing. So I'm giving you right now all the physical things that I did. This next thing that I'm going to talk about, I really didn't do till almost 7 years later when I thought that I was feeling well. And it's only because I hadn't heard of it. I wish I had heard of it sooner, but it's activation versus supplementation, and that's my table of holistic supplements out there. And so what these combination of herbs do is they activate gene pathways in your body. So there's a couple different ones, right? And one of them, activates the survival genes. And so basically, to put it really simply, it's like a master detoxer of things in your body. And after I started taking those, again, I thought that I felt like myself again. I was back to work, playing volleyball, I was in a book club. And after I started taking them, I was like, oh my God, I forgot what it felt like to be me. It was a very powerful experience. So if you want to know more about those, I can tell you about them a little bit later. So anyway, those are all the physical things that I did, which were very necessary because obviously I had a ton of inflammation in my body at the time. But honestly, what I feel like helped me the most really probably wasn't those things, but really enhanced that. And it was really, honestly, stepping out of my life that was killing me. right? Because, you know, I started this as I was the Energizer Bunny. I never stopped. I just kept going and going and going. And so I took a year off of teaching, and so I know I'm very fortunate in the teaching world that they would hold my position for the year. So I had something to go back to. It wasn't unpaid leave. So, you know, we had no idea how we were gonna afford it because I was the breadwinner, so we lost over half of our income. We also lost our health insurance. I mean, I was the health insurance carrier, so we had to dish out additional income in order to get health insurance through my husband. So very scary, right? Like, how are we gonna survive? But absolutely necessary, and somehow it worked out. Like, they did not foreclose on my house. And so I stopped intense workouts. That was not a choice, really. I just couldn't do it. But I mentioned that I started doing, you know, slow yoga. I started meditating really badly at first. If I could make it 2 seconds without like a thought popping in, that was like, you know. But they call it a meditation practice for a reason, right? We have to learn to train our body and our minds. And, you know, again, meditation's not about never thinking. It's about letting your thoughts kind of float on by and not perseverating on those thoughts. And so slowly things started shifting, right? So I'm doing all of these physical things. I am not working. That actually corresponded to my youngest daughter being in kindergarten. So the kids were off at school for several hours a day, and it was just me at home. And what I was doing unknowingly is I feel like I was resetting my nervous system. So if you follow the holistic world at all and like health, the nervous system is a big buzzword right now, and 15 years ago it was not. But my nervous system was shot basically, which leads me into, you know, the next segment talking about trauma. So I didn't give you all the details or any of the, you know, events, the traumatic events or the overwhelming events that I experienced in my life, but there were certainly many. And, you know, I did just what I was taught to do. I just pushed on through, right? Because that's what we do. And especially that's what we do when we're mothers too. But trauma really affects every cell in your body. It's not just an emotional thing, right? It affects your cells, which means it affects your organs and every system in your body. And if you are not giving your body proper rest, then those systems are not going to function the way that they should be functioning, right? So I mentioned I had digestive issues. I digested issues because I never stopped moving, right? And so my body needed a lot of energy to do all the things that I was doing versus, you know, process the food the way that it should be. I don't know if you've ever heard of the book, The Body Keeps the Score. So that's a trauma book. It's Bessel van der Kolk or something like that is the name of the author. But I definitely recommend it if you have not heard of that book. There's also a saying, you know, the issues live in the tissues too, as well. So, you know, anytime you experience a traumatic event, or I don't even want to say traumatic, because when I first started learning about trauma, to me, it's going to be, I'm going to share a real snippet of some trauma that I experienced. It had to be something big. It does not have to be something big, right? So we have a threshold. Our body has a threshold, and it's different every day, depending on, you know, what you ate, how good you slept, you know, what you've been experiencing. And yeah, so trauma doesn't have to be something big, right? It's about how your body is reacting if it crosses that threshold line. So, but I do want to share a quick story with you because I do think that trauma and overwhelming events that you have not processed are a huge contributor to your health, how healthy you are and how healthy you are not. So at 21, I was in a shooting in Ecuador, and I didn't tell anybody. I mean, I didn't tell my parents, right? I was there for a study abroad. I didn't tell my parents. It was on a Saturday, and then Monday I went off to school in Ecuador. Yeah. And just, you know, kept doing my thing. And fast forward to when I was 45. So I was doing yoga at home in my living room, and I was doing this pigeon pose, which is a hip opener on the floor. And I was, you know, laying there, and of course it's not that comfortable if you know that pose. And I saw the entire scene replay in my mind, and I started crying. And when that happened, I was like, well, I didn't even know that I was holding that, right? And so what I was holding was that I saw the shooter, but I didn't know what was going on, and he shot the guy next to me. So I was holding guilt for 20-something years, and I had no idea. And so then I was like, well, great, got that worked out. until I went to yoga at the studio, and then it happened a few more times at the studio, and each time it kind of progressed, right? Like one of the times I heard, I forgive you. And I feel like that was kind of the man that was killed, you know, releasing me of that guilt, right? I had no idea what was going on or why that guy even had a gun. So there's a lot of these things that, you know, and when we have trauma, like we do what we need to do to survive. And thank God our body does that, right? Or we might not get out of bed. You might be one of these, you know, depressive people who never leave their bed again. But they create these blockages in our body. And so, you know, I talked about when I had that acupuncture the first time and I could literally feel the energy. And to me, that was almost like proof, right? Proof that we do have blockages in our body. And so healing really isn't about pushing through, right? It's about listening to your body. And so I feel like also illness sometimes can be, and it certainly was for me, but like a spiritual awakening, right? You can't go back to the way that you were before, the things that you knew before. So I also at that time kind of fell into a Reiki class. That was when I was off for the year. A friend of mine's mother told me she took this Reiki class. I had never heard of Reiki. I had no idea what it was. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I'll do this. And I remember sitting in my car at the Maryvale Community Center and I see this man walking to the parking lot. I was like, that's my teacher. So when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And it was. He was just glowing. I don't know, but anyway. And so the first question that I asked him was, is this going to take my energy? I said, because I don't even have any energy for myself right now. And he said, no, give a healing, get a healing. And I was like, well, I need a lot of healing, so I was all in. And so Reiki, has anybody had Reiki in here? So if not, I highly recommend it. Energy healing, very similar to acupuncture, but acupuncture uses needles to open the blockages. Reiki it's with your hands, with the practitioner's hands. But I say that it changed my life for a lot of reasons because this has become part of my life purpose, right? And I feel like having purpose and meaning in your life is also a huge contributor to your health. At that time, I also started going to a meditation class. And then the teacher kind of transitioned into meditation and intuitive development. And then the next thing you know, I found myself surrounded by mediums, which then led me to a mediumship class, which I think is really interesting because, you know, we have Lilydale right here in our backyard. I didn't have an interest in it. Like it wasn't, like I was afraid, it just wasn't on my radar at all. And then it really, because of Reiki is when I started getting messages and then I started taking this class. It has really now become part of my life purpose too. And so, you know, when I do readings, a lot is like spiritual counseling, right? Like people don't tell me what's wrong with them. I know what their problems are and then to help them, right? Because sometimes we don't even know what our own problems are. And again, so purpose matters, right? Meaning matters. I also discovered personal growth work. So anybody heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? I highly recommend him if you haven't read him. He's got, oh gosh, I can't think of the names of the books off the top of my head, but highly recommend him. He's got several books and you can find tons of meditations on YouTube with him. Dr. Mona Lisa Schultz, so she's a medical intuitive, so she's an MD who's had tons of trauma in her life, but was listening to a YouTube while I was like doing something else and I heard Lyme and I was like, what? And I went back and rewound and she said, people with Lyme disease have balance issues. And I was like, I do have balance issues. I had no work-life balance, right? Like I was all work and then it was work and bed. It was work and sleep and that was it. I also discovered Tony Robbins. He's a lot about, you know, personal empowerment. I love him. And, you know, what I have discovered after like reading all these different people and learning about them is they're really all saying the same thing. It's just what message resonates with you, right? Like you heard of Tony Robbins, like he's saying the F word like every other word. And some people don't like that, so they like Dr. Joe Dispenza better, right? But I also came across Louise Hay. Has anybody heard of Louise Hay? She has, I'm sure she's got the book out there, but it's, she puts emotions to illness. She does have a really good healing book that I can't remember the name of. And I was always kind of a believer in like emotions, you know, to illness, right? Like, you know how you got like that gut feeling, right? Or like pain in the neck. Like we have a lot of sayings about that, like so-and-so's a pain in my neck. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, oh, I'm a little stiff over here, right? And anyway, I was already a believer, but I had a woman that I worked with who had cancer now 4 times. And I invited her over. I wanted to do some Reiki for her. And she, started talking to me a little bit. And I said, well, where exactly is your cancer? Because now it was in her bones. And I can't remember what number she said in her spine. And so I went and I got this Louise Hay book, and it said sexual abuse. And I knew her, but I didn't know her that well, like enough to, just come on out with it. So I just showed her the book and I pointed, and she said, oh my God, I haven't told anybody that story in 40 years. And she proceeded to tell me the story, her sexual abuse story. So talking about, issues living in the tissues and storing our trauma, right? So physical illness is so much more, that's in the moment, that's what manifests, right? But it probably really started years before that. So again, entered into the personal growth world. I really discovered that my natural nurturing nature and like taking care of everybody else but myself was really like the people pleasing. I was a people pleaser, looking for some approval. I didn't really have good boundaries. I learned that no is a complete sentence, and I started saying it. And I also learned people don't really like it when you place boundaries and you start saying no if you haven't done that in a while. But they adjust eventually, or they just, move away from your life somehow. I learned that rest is productive, right? That work first, play later is complete BS, right? That's what I was taught, because there's always work. There's always work. I learned that I had to schedule some fun. I learned that my voice mattered. I learned that I was worthy of investing, right? Like I wouldn't think anything of buying my kids like a $30 outfit, that like spend $10 on a shirt for me, like, I started taking mindfulness classes. I learned about the nervous system and how my nervous system was shot, we'll say, kind of stuck in the fight or flight for years and years. I learned breath work. I learned really to follow my intuition. So every single thing that I didn't mention to what a lonely time period it was, right? Because going to all these doctors who you think are there to help you, and they have nothing to offer you. And then, like physically you look fine, like your face isn't disfigured or anything like that. And I dropped 20 pounds and people are like, wow, even though I looked really exhausted, it was very lonely. So, learning that my voice mattered, I just did whatever I thought I should do. And, with that, it's interesting because a lot of people, once they started learning all this, I just wanted to share and I just wanted to help everybody. And you know what? People don't really give a shit. They don't, unless they ask you. And then there's so many people that are like, that will never work. How do you know? Because you haven't tried it. You haven't tried it. So I would literally try anything and everything. And if it worked, I kept it. If it didn't, I threw it away, right? And we're all different. So what works for my body might not work for your body. What works for your body might not work for your body, etc. Right? So, trying everything. But most of all, really, I learned number one, that I was giving my power away my entire life. So taking back my power, and really that I learned that health is not just physical, right? It's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. And this is where my tattoo was born. So I don't know if you know the chakras or not, but this is very similar. There's just one line different to your third chakra. That is your center of personal power. So I started taking my power back and making my own choices instead of waiting for other people to tell me what to do. And then the diamonds around the outside, shine bright like a diamond, shine your light, right? You don't have to help everybody else and let them, help them shine. You can shine your own light as well. And then underneath is a healthy spirit, because it's healed by spirit, right? If you heal all of these other things and you're doing all of these other things, the physical health can't help but follow as well, too. So really, Lyme didn't take my life. I thought it took my life for several years, right? But it really gave me one, and it wasn't the life that I was living. And it's such a blessing in disguise in retrospect, because I just wanted those antibiotics. I just wanted those damn antibiotics from the doctor, and I wanted to go on with my life and raising my kids and going to work every day, and just get on with it. But it gave me the life that I was meant for, right? I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, like, you can't heal in the same place or as the same person as you were when you got sick. It's true, right? Because you wouldn't have got sick in the first place. So if you're here and you're exhausted, if your body is whispering, for God's sakes, listen, because I didn't, right? or if it's screaming, or if you're feeling lost, just know your body's not broken. It's communicating something to you, and that healing is possible. And again, healing is possible not by becoming who you used to be, but by becoming who you are meant to be right now. Does anybody have any questions?
That's a beautiful story.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming and for listening to my story, and I hope that you were able to take some value out of there, and that you're able to, share a little nugget with somebody else who might need it.
Thank you. You're wonderful.
Thank you. You guys don't feel like you're trapped with it?
12:28.
Oh.
Maybe like since we're so close
together.
Okay. There's something. I like from 12:30 to 1:15 is pretty good parts, professionals.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you need to ask any questions, I'll be over at the table.
Okay.